Before you get going, you'll need your pencil, but you're also going to need a red and a blue, either a colored pencil or a crayon, so that you can work, not markers because it might bleed through. So crayon or colored pencil, red and blue. So when you see this mark in red or blue, that means I specifically wanted that color, and you'll see it matched on the doodle page of like where it goes. So when you see this like crayon outline, that means you're using your color to match it to there. So far in your math career, you have done a lot with positives. All the way through 5th grade, you've mostly been learning about positive numbers. We're going to start learning about their opposites, negative numbers. You've maybe heard that word, have an idea of what it means. So we're going to look at it a little more carefully here. So negatives, right? You can see I highlighted that with that blue crayon. I want you to color in negatives blue. So negatives are numbers that are less than 0. So they on the number line, they're less than 0. So we're coloring that in. So all of this, right, say negatives, we're connecting that to a blue color, and they're less than 0. They go to the left. It's like, yes, left. The directions are hard. They always go to the left. So it's represented by this little symbol. It looks like a minus sign, right? Because when I minus something, I'm going to the left. It's the same thing. Negatives and subtracting both mean you're going to the left of that number. So the opposite of that is the ones we're familiar with are the positive numbers. We're going to connect that to red. So our positive numbers are greater than 0, and they're going to go to the right. Yes, I know the opposite of that. Okay, so they're going to the right. Positives go to the right. So its symbol is a plus sign. So when you're adding on, you're getting bigger. You're going to the right. So they kind of mean the same thing. Positives are going to the right. Negatives are going to the left. So go ahead and make sure you have everything you need for that part there and understand about positives and negatives. So number lines can actually go in 2 different directions. So the one we're pretty familiar with is called horizontal. It's the one that goes across. You can see it just goes across the paper. If you look at the horizon, it's like where the sky and the land meet. That's the horizon. It's that straight line across there. So like we just talked about, our positives are on the right and our negatives are on the left. So as we go to the right, we get bigger. As we go to the left, we get smaller. So that's the one we're pretty familiar with. So let's look at the other type. The other one is a vertical. That means you're going up and down. So when you measure how tall you are, you're measuring your vertical height. Height is another word. So this one goes up and down. It is vertical. Now, when we flip it, it's always going to have positive on top. So up is positive and down is always going to be negative. So you can kind of think of it like a thermometer, right? If you are checking the temperature or a glass of water or something, it goes up when it's getting hotter and then you can see 0, and it can go down when it's getting colder and into those negatives. So, right, we're going to label our thermometer to help us remember hotter is going up. Here's our positive numbers. Colder is going down. There's our negative numbers, right? And cold, we think blue. That's why we've done everything in negative with blue, because they're cold, right? I think ice, oh, it's hot, it's red, it's burning up. That goes up. Those are our positive numbers. Okay, our next definition we need to understand is an integer. So when we're talking about positive and negative numbers together, those are integers. So integers are positive and negative whole numbers. So no decimals, no fractions, just our counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the opposites -1, -2, and they keep on going. So whole numbers that are positive and negative. So we need to make sure we write that down so we can remember that definition. And then you need to make sure that you show it. Go ahead and write me a few examples of integers, right? Integers, an integer could be 4, it could be -3, it could be 27, it could be -52. They're just positive and negative whole numbers. Now, if you were listening closely, you might have heard me say our next word, which is opposites. So an opposite, right? Up, down, left, right, big, little. So if I have a positive, the opposite is a negative. So if I have a 3, then the opposite of that is -3. They're the same distance from 0. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but they're on opposite sides of that number line. One's positive, one is negative. So make sure you go ahead and show that as well. Give me an example of some opposites. -10 and 10 are opposites. -50, +50 are opposites. So make sure you finish that part there. Now, we might not always say the word positive and negative. Sometimes we might use other words that mean the same thing. So our positives are going to be on the right, and our negatives are going to be on the left here. So sometimes in games, like card games or a football game, you can have different actions. And if you earn points or you move the ball forward, you gain. But if you do the opposite of that, you're going to have a loss of points or a loss of yards. So in lots of games, we have losses and gains. So in money, if you go to the bank and you put money into the bank, that's called making a deposit. But if you already have money in the bank and you take it out, that's called withdrawing the money. And if you take out too much, you could go into the negatives. I'll not be good, right? Hey, we also have elevation. So as you are hiking up a mountain, you're going higher and higher, and we call that above sea level. So kind of think of the ocean as 0, and the higher up you go, you're going above sea level. And if you swim down into the ocean, you are going below sea level. And then we also just have some generic words we use when we talk about numbers. We might increase or we might decrease. So as we increase, we're moving upward or in a positive direction. As we decrease, we're going down or in a negative direction. So make sure you have those words and any colors that are important to positives and negatives. Okay, so to finish it off, just take no more than 5 minutes and color in anything else that's important. You've probably done most of it already. So maybe the thermometer or some of the examples need to be colored in just to make those connections. Most of this should be red and blue though, so no more than 5 minutes. Finish that up.